Well, everybody, good morning. I'm hoping that well, when looking at the screen, we can see who's with us, and that you realise that we do ask you to participate, officers, while you're home. I would like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Joint Waste Disposal Board. Please note that the meeting is being broadcast and recorded. The board is together in the council chambers at Wokingham Borough Council. Officers will be joining online. Firstly, are there any apologies?
Yes, I've received apologies from Councillor Bath.
At the present time, Hannah, just to let you know, Councillor Harrison isn't with us here.
Okay, thank you.
You can see from the video feed that all members are expected, but as you can see in the room, we just have our lovely people from Reading, Wokingham, and myself, okay? Right, the full text for declaration of interest is set out on the agenda in item 4. If any member has a discriminatory interest or affected interest, to declare please and indicate, and I will come to you in turn. I can see there's none, therefore, thank you. There are no declarations, but may I remind everyone that you can make a declaration at any time should it occur to you at a later time. Anyone declaring a discriminatory pecuniary interest will need to leave the meeting when we get to that item. The next, that's the apologies declaration we've done. Minutes of the meeting of the Joint Waste Disposal Board, number 3. As a correct record of the minutes of the meeting, which was held on the 2nd of December 2021. Please indicate if you are having an issue with the accuracy. Is there anything wrong with that? No? Is there? Well, we'll be looking at, I'm sure, the environmental bill, curbside glass recycling, the mixed glass, won't we, Oliver? So I can take that then as part of that paper. Right, moving on. Urgent items of business. Hannah, any?
No, none notified, Chair.
Thank you. And next we move on to agenda item 5. It'll be Sarah, thank you. Nobody has indicated on that, so I can take that as minutes have taken. The next item on the agenda considering and then agenda item number 5 is a progress report, and that's going to be taken by Sarah. Sarah, are you on? There you are. We can see you. Thank you.
Fab. Yeah, so usual, we start the progress report with a review of the usual performance statistics. So you will have seen in the report that we have presented the provisional statistics for April through to January. As of yesterday, we also now have the figures for February as well. As you'd expect at this time of year, adding an extra month to the cumulative figures for the year to date doesn't change the statistics massively, but the recycling rates are currently now standing as Bracknell on 56.4%, Reading on 51.4%, and Wokingham on 54.2%. So for all 3 councils, that's a decrease of about 0.3 to 0.4% in recycling rate compared to the figures you'll have seen in the reports. Obviously, we know that Q4 is always our lowest performing quarter, so that doesn't come as a surprise. But the good thing is that that doesn't change the conclusion that I put in the report, in that we would still expect all 3 councils to be above 50% at the end of the year. So I think that's all I plan to say on that, unless there are any questions about statistics.
Hopefully they'll go up, no doubt, as we're going through the next quarter, I hope, Hannah. Well, on that, Sarah.
Yeah.
Are there any questions on this? No? Okay. Continue then, Sarah.
Thank you, Doc. So the next bit then was about trade waste. So you will have probably picked up from the report that we've now reached the limit of 100 traders that we set for our HWRC scheme. We've got a handful of traders who visit us on a fairly regular basis. However, the majority of traders are either inactive or quite infrequent users of the system. So we have therefore been undertaking a survey to get some feedback from the users about their usage of the site. To date, we've currently had 15 respondents to our survey who've made. Of those, we had. You okay, Chair? You look a bit confused.
Sarah, you're breaking up.
Oh, right. Right, I think it's back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so I was just saying about our survey that we've started undertaking. Yeah, to date we've had 15 respondents for the survey who've fully completed it. Of those, we had 2 users who said that they hadn't yet visited in 2021. And of those, one said it was because they'd only recently registered, and one said it was because of COVID and ill health. And then we had 4 users who said that they had visited less than quarterly in 2021. And of those, a couple said it was because they only came to the recycling centre when they've got particular types of waste they need to dispose of. One said it's because they would usually hire a skip for larger amounts of waste. And the other one said it was to do with issues in booking to come to the site. So the booking thing is something that we will want to have a bit of a look at. We did get a few comments from traders about the booking process. So we'll have a look at that. But in terms of the usage, it does just seem to be that some traders do just seem to need to deposit waste on quite an infrequent basis. And I suppose potentially at the moment, the only route maybe that's open to them is to try and apply to come on our scheme and get an annual permit. So we've therefore proposed to undertake a trial in which we would allow traders to come to the sites on a one-off basis to deposit their trade waste without taking up one of these places on our trade waste scheme that we've got at the moment. So we'd still need to undertake all the usual documentation checks. There would still need to be waste transfer notes, checks on waste carrier licenses, etc. But it would just mean that they're not counted as one of those 100 users towards the scheme. We've also currently got about 30 traders who registered quite a long time ago but haven't visited at all in the last 12 months. So our plan is now to write to those users and tell them that we will remove them from the scheme, and hopefully that too should free up some capacity. We've currently got a bit of a waiting list of traders who would like to come and deposit waste, and hopefully they then will be able to come and do so. So I think that's all I was planning to say on that. So I will open it up for your discussion and questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there? Yes, Adele.
Thank you, Chair. Sarah, I was wondering, we've got an issue, particularly in the centre of Reading, where we've got HMO landlords. They have waste to dispose of when tenants move out. They're not eligible to use the Smallmead as residents because they're not residents. So I wondered if this scheme was open to them, and if so, is it promoted to them? Thank you.
So yeah, it is definitely open to them. We do have a number of landlords who are currently using the system, as long as their usage would fit within our current site rules, which I expect in most cases it would. Yes, it's open to them, as long as we've got space on the scheme, obviously, to be able to accept them. In terms of promoting, yeah, we've sent out some generic stuff to local businesses and our newsletter subscribers and things. I don't know if it's specifically been targeted at landlords, but potentially that's something we could look at.
Is that okay, Adele? Any other questions? Okay, so moving on, that, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing else on that. Can I take it then that I'll thank you for it, Sarah. And if members then would move and agree the recommendation, which is 2.2 on page 9, can I take it then? We're in agreement to that. Yes,
Agreed.
agreed. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Right, now moving to number 6, the agenda item, yes. Oh. Yes. Can you go ahead, Sarah, with the data protection?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the data protection thing is just a quick point, really. Back in 2018, we wrote a policy which set out the sort of guidelines that we would follow as officers when sharing personal data between different partners in the RE3 partnership. It was designed to just be quite a short and easy to read document that was easy for officers to understand. And it just sets out the principles that we'll follow. So, for example, only sharing personal data with people it needs to be shared with, only keeping it for as long as it needs to be kept, etc. But obviously 2018 is quite a long time ago now. So we thought it would be just a good opportunity to review that document. That review's now taken place. Really, it's just a case of tweaking some of the wording. But I suppose the main thing to note is that that document has now been recirculated with staff. So it's just a good refresher of all the principles that we're going to follow. And hopefully that continues to ensure that we treat personal data in the way that it should be treated. So hopefully that's okay. And if there are no questions on that, I'll just move on to my last bit, which is about user satisfaction. So
Sarah, hold on. Gregor wanted to ask on that. Do you want to go ahead, Gregor?
Sarah, just very quickly on that, I appreciate why you're updating the protection statement. Can you just clarify, is the booking system for the refuse centres included within that documentation and the personal details that are contained or gathered as a result of that?
No, so the booking system we've got sort of covered under slightly separate documentation. That tends to be data that's all held by Journey, and the data remains on that system. And then it's myself and our contractor who access that via the Journey system. Whereas the protocol that I've just referenced tends to be what we use when responding to complaints and queries, and when we're sharing data between the different partners, so one of the councils and the contractor, etc. So it's slightly different.
Thank you for that. I ask obviously because the booking system was implemented post 2018 when the last GDPR statement was written. So I just wanted to make sure that it had been covered separately.
Yeah, we do have a separate policy between ourselves and the contractor, which relates to all the booking system data. Yeah, so that is a separate thing that we've got.
And I'm sure we'll be discussing that further in a while. Can I just ask Sarah, just looking at it, there was the reuse of bicycles. Who's dealing with that?
So I think that'd be Oliver.
Oliver, have you got anything there you can bring me up to date on with regards to, because Wokingham, didn't you undertake taking bikes from the centres, and whether or not what has happened with that particular issue? Can you give me something on an update on that? I just noted it.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, can give you an update on that. I think there a couple of years ago now, everything seems like it was a couple of years ago now, and there's an obvious reason for that, but a couple of years ago now, it was a startup campaign in Woking called My Journey, and My Journey had a single figure number of bikes to help people, and Councillor Murray will probably be able to speak more accurately about the purpose of it, but in general it's about helping people to get around and sustainable transport, those sorts of things. So a couple of bikes were taken from the stock that we have, along with obviously those bikes which have in the past been sent to Super Rider and other uses, and indeed, as it says in the report, our first pop-up shop we sold some bikes. Really, the section at 529 onwards in the report is just to recognise the fact that there are some loopholes that we obviously need to sort of jump through in the right way to make sure that if we're giving away bikes that are second hand, that we know that where they're going, what's going to happen with them, and that there is a sort of some liabilities and some checks undertaken to make sure that they're going to be used well, and then that the councils really are doing that in a responsible way. We check all those things off with the contractor, and the process has been checked through our trading standards teams. And really what we're talking about in this section is coming to an agreement about the way that we might administer any future distribution of bikes to other causes. We know there are repair cafes, bike kitchens, all sorts of things which are really, really important part of the community, and we just want to make sure, I suppose, that wherever bikes go that have been handed to us effectively as an item of waste are transferred appropriately. We think that's dead easy. I think we're identifying in the report. It's just a check and balance, really. Sorry, Chair.
Thank you for that, Oliver, because I have been approached by members of the public that are our officers, and I know that Damien's aware of this, for carers and young persons in care. So it's something that I will be bringing back to you. So, Gregor, are you continuing to take bikes, or is this My Journey still up with you?
My Journey still operates out of Woking Borough Council. It sits under Councillor Parry Bath's area of portfolio and expertise, so I'll need to speak with him about it specifically. I have taken a note in terms of what we could do with the bikes that are collected from the recycling centres, and also what we could do to collect them from residents before they end up at the recycling centres as well.
Thank you. Damien, you heard that, did you? I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to come in, obviously reiterate what you've already mentioned, that members in Bracknell Forest are currently looking at a recycling bike scheme, and it's something that we'll be bringing forward, hopefully in the near future, to the board for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Councillor Harris. We were concerned that you weren't with us, but was it parking or? That was it. I had that problem. Well, sort of. Good morning, anyhow. We're on to the part 6, where exclusion of press and public. Agenda item 7 is to receive the contract review report. This item includes likely disclosure of exempt information, so we will be moving into the private section to